Hear me out. I think dueling is the answer to most of society's ills. I think if we had a system in which aggrieved parties could duel one another in the modern world, I think that would solve a lot of problems. And here's why. Disagreements between people, between citizens in modern Western civilization. I mean, I think this can apply anywhere, but just as a frame of reference, we get so angry with each other that sometimes we just end up murdering each other, and that's not ideal, but it's also the inevitable outcome of simmering discontent and having unresolved grudges and extreme disagreements of philosophy and morality, and sometimes we just personally wrong each other so much that that it escalates to violence outside of any kind of proscribed legal setting. And that's what we need. So I think that's what we need. We need a prescribed legal setting in which we can settle these differences in an orderly way that makes it legal and makes it as fair as possible. So that, because I think it is not realistic to say that we can settle all differences peacefully. I mean, that would be perfect. In a perfect world, we could settle all of our differences peacefully without any bloodshed and without any violence. But that's not realistic. That's not how human beings work, and that's never going to be the way human beings work. We should aspire to reaching that ideal as best as we can, but it's also not realistic to think that we will perfectly live up to that ideal. And so what we need, I think, is an outlet so that when people have extreme disagreements, they can settle them in as best a way as possible, considering that it's an unfortunate situation for it to come, for a disagreement to come to such a extreme head. But it happens. I think we would be better off just recognizing and admitting that it does happen, and then trying to work with that instead of playing pretend and pretending like people don't need to kill each other sometimes. Under extreme circumstances. Throughout history, there usually has been some kind of method, for men to resolve their profound differences. It doesn't necessarily have to be lethal, but I think that would work out best, because the whole point is this is an extreme solution, to extreme problems. This is like when all other alternatives have failed, and there's nothing else to do but just let people fight it out. And I think that would be for the best. It's not perfect, because there would still be grudges that go on after the immediate conflict has been resolved and that kind of thing. So I'm not saying this is a perfect solution, but I think it's as best as we're going to get given the constraints of human nature. So I think so. Here's what I think we should do. I think we should have a setup where, if someone is so aggrieved that there's no other recourse, like no lesser recourse to a disagreement, I think people, any citizen of sound mind and body should be able to challenge another citizen of sound mind and body to essentially a duel to the death. Essentially, just to settle things once and for all in a legal, orderly manner. And now, I think the key thing is that this is only to be done under extreme circumstances. This is not something that people should ever take upon themselves lightly. Like this is an absolute last resort kind of solution when everything else has failed, and it's going to escalate to murder if it's not handled in a legally sanctioned kind of way. And so under that circumstance, the aggrieved party, the one who says I just can't take this anymore. We need to settle this. Challenges another citizen to a duel, and then the challenged party then chooses the manner of the challenge, because, and so this is the key thing. The advantage is tremendously on the challenged party, because the challenged party can choose whatever he or she wants. The duel, speaking loosely, what form he or she wants it to take. It could be anything. It could be, it could be pistols at dawn. Well, I'll get into it. It could be a pistol duel, a shooting duel. It could be, just like brutal, no holds barred physical combat, or it could be a game of chess. It could be anything, anything that is like clearly, a one-on-one contest. But it, could be physical. It could be intellectual. It could be, it could be a game of riddles. It could be whatever the challenged party, whatever the one receiving the challenge wants. It's entirely up to the challenged party. And so so if you challenge someone to a duel, then you are taking a huge risk, and it's not something you would do lightly, because you will probably lose, because the advantage is massively on the side of the person being challenged. Which is as it should be. Like, the whole point of this is that it is a extreme last resort alternative to anarchy and chaotic bloodshed in the streets without any without any kind of like social sanction attached to it. So the whole point is that this is not something anyone sane, in theory everyone has to be sane to do this, but this is not something that a reasonable person would ever do unless they had just no sensible alternative and they had to do it. We have to settle this one way or another, so I'm willing to take this extreme course of action that does not favor me. That's how strongly I feel about it, is that I'm willing to put everything on the line and probably get myself killed, because it's just, I have to do it. This is the only thing I have to do, the only thing that has any that offers me any hope of relief. So the challenge party chooses what method of contest it is, and what how the duel will be fought, quote unquote, because it's not literally necessarily any kind of like physical confrontation. So then, once that's been decided, then the choice returns to the challenger, the one who issued the challenge, and he or she then chooses what time and place the challenge is to be fought, so to speak, at. Because then, so the advantage is overwhelmingly on the side of the challenge party, as it should be. But it is also not entirely in their favor, because the challenger, the party that issued the challenge, has the choice of where and when it's going to take place, because people underestimate this kind of thing. They underestimate how significant time of day, like setting, they underestimate how significant that kind of thing can be. So that's so I would say it's 70-30 in favor of the defending party, the challenge party. They have most of the advantage, but the challenger also has an advantage themselves too. So it's not just a one-sided conflict. But this would obviously discourage people from just issuing challenges willy-nilly, because it's probably not going to go in your favor if you're the one issuing the challenge. It is it's a desperate thing. It's like if you really wanted to stop, say like a tyrant was ruling over your community, and it was just like you had to, you wanted to legally, you wanted to, in a socially acceptable manner, you wanted to depose this person, and that's, this is the only thing that you can do, then in that case, like, I think multiple people would issue challenges. And so then even if the first one died and the second one died because they don't have the advantage, I think eventually, if the tyrant was bad enough, someone would kill the tyrant, because, just fortune would eventually favor one of the challengers, and there would be a sufficient number of challengers. Because if the tyrant is that bad, then there would be a lot of people willing to take that risk and lay down their lives for the good of the community, And, I'm not suggesting that this is anything that would be implemented realistically in the near future, but I think something like this would be good for a civilized society in the far future. I think this would be a good, a good notion to carry with us and potentially institute at some point in the far future, when maybe people are a little bit more open-minded to this kind of thing. Because obviously most people would just think I'm crazy suggesting this today, but I think it's actually very reasonable, because what's the alternative? People just, people just get so angry at each other that they have no alternative but to seek, seek some form of retribution, of restitution, of healing these wounds outside of the law and outside of civil society. And how is that better? I would argue that is not better, that's worse. I think my solution is, not meaning to speak immodestly, but I think it's a pretty elegant solution that that takes the sort of inescapable aspects of human nature, the fact that we do inevitably, no matter how well we try to civilize ourselves and we try to live together in some kind of harmony, inevitably people are going to have conflicts that devolve to, extreme. They require an extreme solution. I think that's just realistic. I think denying that is very immature. I think that's very, I think that just pretends that human beings are something we are not. And there's nothing wrong, of course, there's nothing wrong with how we are. Like, that's just how we are. We have these extreme affections and these extreme differences. And we need to work within the framework of who and what we are, instead of pretending that we are something that we are not.